Good afternoon, Robert. Don't just stand there, sit down. Were you waiting long?
No, 15 minutes or so.
Your hair's nice like that. Don't get it cut. Let it grow a little longer. And you've lost more weight, I think. Skinny men are the most ridiculous thing there is.
Kinds of Kindness is Yorgos back in his weird bag. It's like he said, oh, y'all thought Poor Things was freaky? Just you wait. I kinda love the fact that he's roped more people into his films, with slightly more palatable ventures in Poor Things than The Favourite, and a cast of actors so likeable they're likely to draw in an audience on name alone. I think it's exposing more people to experimental cinema, and I really love him for that. It's what mainstream movies are missing. Stuff that actively wants you to be critically thinking both during and after the film finishes. Yorgos is so successful at this that he's able to balance entertainment and captivating stories with just wild scenarios. The fables he concocts here are just truly bizarre, but not without purpose. There's meaning behind his madness. I'll be attempting to unpack the meanings behind all of this craziness, and I think a fitting place to start is simply the title of the film. It's so incredibly smart as it doesn't really give away what the film will be tackling, but by the second story you're starting to grasp what the connective tissue is between these vignettes. In Kinds of Kindness, Yorgos uses an anthology to portray his weirdness in a multitude of different ways. Throughout each of the stories we are brought into worlds which have varying degrees of magical realism to them, but what stays consistent is characters who are perceived to be kind, or characters who are viewing other characters as kind. In the first story, Raymond, played by Willem Dafoe, is perceived to be kind by Robert, played by Jesse Plemons, but control is a form of kindness to those being controlled. It's this dizzying, disarming kindness that once you've escaped it, you crave it. It becomes part of you. Yorgos is interested with the idea of capturing how comforting control can be for some, the alleviation of all your own choices, the idea that someone will make decisions for you, out of interest for you, out of kindness. It's sad that it takes being asked to severely injure someone for Robert to even realise that perhaps Raymond doesn't have his best interests in mind. And what's even sadder is once he's able to get out, he's lived for so long under control, he's unable to live without him, that he crawls right back to the warm, oppressive grip of being controlled by someone. To a fresh eye, this is clearly an abusive relationship. And in part, I think Yorgos wanted to explore the intoxicating and enchanting kindness that is felt from those in an abusive relationship. It's a thread that appears throughout all three stories. Raymond in the first is controlling, Daniel, played by Jesse Plemons in the second story, is mistrust and paranoia, and both the cult and Joseph, played by Joe Alwyn, in the third, are sexual. It's deeply ingrained in the roots of the film, and it's something wholly unique to this film. The disarming allure of abusive relationships is rarely explored, and Yorgos does so here with a tenderness, which is perhaps a strange word to describe this film, but it's kind to the characters in the film who have lost themselves to these abusive relationships, and shows how easily any of us could find ourselves in one. The second story is extremely powerful in showing both sides of these relationships. We find Daniel at a low, but clearly he has this devotion to his wife, Liz, played by Emma Stone, and he's desperate to find her. Once she's returned to him, she's different in his eyes, and he believes her to be a person pretending to be his wife. His wife has went through an extremely hard situation, and it perhaps has changed her slightly, but since she no longer fits the mold in which Daniel has laid out for her, he has resorted into believing she's not his wife. It's quite the allegory for controlling relationships once again. Daniel is seeking to control his wife to fit his narrative. Liz is not granted the autonomy in her life to explore who she really is under the oppressive foot of her husband. This oppression is clearly comforting, however. Much like Robert in the first film, control has become an expression of love for Liz. You can see this more clearly in this story, that she has an affinity for Daniel. She's become enamored by her captor. She would figuratively and literally cut pieces of herself out just to please him. As this pertains to the ending of this story, I think it's more metaphorical than literal. Liz perhaps has killed herself in the end, but to Daniel that means his wife is completely devoted to him and fits the mold he made for his wife. Or alternatively, it is just a metaphor for Liz being willing to cut pieces of herself out for her husband, for love. The third story follows the same thematic through line of kindness being a form of power, and control being the root of this kindness. But once again, in a strangely disarming story, we follow Andrew and Emily, who are on the hunt for a young woman who has the ability to bring people back from the dead. We find out that the pair of them are part of this cultish group of people who have been codified to believe that Omi, played by Willem Dafoe, and Aka, played by Hong Chow, are these pure beings whose tears are purifying and have immense knowledge. We find out that Emily has left her husband and daughter in order to join this group, but still visits their home every so often to leave her daughter's stuff. It's not hard to draw parallels between the previous stories and this one with regard to control. This comes in the form of Omi and Aka, who have put all these people in a daze believing all of their peculiarities. But I think more interestingly is the ways in which, specifically sex, is contrasted with Emily's husband. It's very clear in the film that Joseph rapes Emily. He lures her in with kindness and acts on these impulses as a means to have ownership over Emily. However, earlier in the film, when Emily and Andrew are preparing to have sex with Omi, I think this equally could be viewed as a form of rape. Specifically, Emily doesn't seem to be thrilled with the idea of having sex with Omi, and yet she does, as she's been essentially forced to. Omi has ownership over all of these people due to his power within the group. It's less explicit, but both of these scenarios are using sex as a form of control and power. It's fascinating, each of these vignettes deals with control, but the different modes of control. The first being power dynamics, the second being love, and the last being sex. In a way, Yorgos is exploring the same idea of how easily kindness is perverted into cruelty, and often kindness is used as a way to nullify and control people. He explores this idea though through these different ideas of control, to show how bleak kindness can become, as so much of kindness is able to be corrupted and weaponized as a form of control over people. In each of these stories, we find the people stuck in these abuses of power, using a fixation as a way to obscure control, and dull the conscious knowledge that what they're experiencing is an abusive relationship. We find Robert fixated on routine in the first story, and when he actually chooses to stop Raymond having a control over his life, he's paralyzed with choice. We see him at the bar unable to order a drink, and the resulting drink sounds familiar to the bartender. Preceding this, he begins to play out how Raymond helped him meet his wife. From this, I think it's clear that the drink he ordered was the drink he ordered on the night he met his wife, and he became so reliant on Raymond informing him on how to go about his life. Even when he's granted authority over his own life to do whatever he wants, he still falls back into the comfort of routine. The second story, Liz's fixation appears to simply be her husband. She's so enamored by him and his love that it's enough to nullify the hurt he's enacting on her. We're only privy to the time after Liz went away, but it's easy to infer that this was not a healthy relationship prior, and Liz was simply doing what her husband wanted to appease him. She really loved her husband, even if that meant changing who she really is to fit his idea of her. She wanted to do so as she had this complete and utter adoration for her husband, and believed in their love so much despite this love being so easily destructible when she didn't fit his idea of her. The third story, Emily's fixation, is this woman with abilities to bring people back from the dead, which is quite dark as the fixation she has is something concocted from her captors. She's under the impression that finding this woman will fix all of her problems, and she goes to such extreme lengths to get this woman. When she does, she's so far gone that she simply wants this woman to get back into the group and appease her leaders. What's so incredibly fun about Yorgos' work is that all of this heaviness and tackling of dark and shied away from themes is packaged in such strange and wonderful stories which are simultaneously entertaining. It's thought-provoking cinema and it's pushing the boundaries on what gets into cinemas. It's fun to analyse whether or not Yorgos feels this way just generally about kindness. The film is called Kinds of Kindness, but really explores the ways kindness is perverted and manipulative. The film itself is kind to characters who fall for this fallacy, but really, are we all just characters falling for this kindness? And is kindness simply a way of controlling each other? I'd love to know what your opinions were on Kinds of Kindness, and if you agree with this read of the film, or if you have your own. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe, and for more movie opinions, follow me over on Insta. And before you go, don't forget to let me know what you found in frames.